All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as we continue to investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology right here in the X Zone. And we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. If you'd like to send me an email, comments, pro or con, or if there's a special guest you'd like us to bring on the show, just send me an email. Always glad to hear from our listeners, no matter where you are or no matter how you listen to the show. My email address is xzone@classic1220.ca. X Zone Nation, I have a very special guest this first hour of our show tonight. Dr. Christopher Macklin is my guest, and he's a medical intuitive, paranormal conduit, spiritual teacher, health and wellness practitioner. He's highly respected as a UFO expert, medical intuitive, remote viewer, a spiritual teacher, energetic healer for his work in assisting people in achieving optimal spiritual, mental, emotional, physical health. And joining me now is Dr. Christopher Macklin. And Chris, welcome back to the X Zone.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rob. Bless your heart. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's nice talking. It's nice talking to you again. And before we went on air, we were just talking about the crazy state of the world, and with all your expertise and all the experiences that you've had, and spoken to the many people you have, can you make any sense out of what is going on?
Oh yeah, we're in a spiritual battle, dark versus light. You know, and again, this is my opinion. I don't think there's any terrorist organizations. You just got the darkness and then versus the light. The light people are trying to turn the planet around and make it amazing again. The dark people are trying to control and take over the planet. And it's interesting that people think it's governments. It's really not. It's actually a reptilian element, draconians, Anunnaki, and Luciferians who are they're actually in control. The people in government are just puppets. So, you know, people often think, well, why are they doing this? Oh, they're puppet masters, you know. So, yeah, it's really interesting, and people are really struggling right now.
So, Chris, for all the listeners who may not have had the opportunity of listening to you on this show or the many shows and television shows that you've been on over the years, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought Christopher Macklin into doing the great work he's doing today.
Well, there's certain elements of people, you know, there's the starseeds who have agreed to come down here. I don't know what we're thinking, but anyway, you agreed to come down here and do some work. But of course, these reptilians know who's a starseed and who's not, so they're trying to stop them by spiritually attacking them relentlessly. Then there's people who are on a soul recycling process, so they come to this classroom. It is a classroom, and they learn and they go back up, and then they come again, and they can come many, many times until you've evolved spiritually. And then there's an element of what they call NPCs, non-player characters, which are people who have been born in pods. You know, I'm just reminding everyone, because maybe everyone's forgetting that to get a proper human being here, you need a lady's womb. You know, and you know, you fertilize the egg, in comes the soul, because you need the energetic structure of that womb. So there's a lot going on right now. It's crazy.
So would you say that based on your observations and the work that you've done, that we are closer to what some people call open disclosure, the verification of the fact that ET and aliens are here. But if in fact they are, does that represent the biblical revelation or the end times as we know it?
I think it does. I mean, we're in a battle now.
Yeah.
The reptilians that controlling everything actually live under the planet. People probably don't. There's massive caverns, the massive cities. There's probably more of them on the planet than there is of us. And of course, so what they're trying to do is they want to try and come on the surface. But the problem they've got is they don't breathe the same level of oxygen. So you think, okay, so why are they trying to block out the sun, saying it's global warming and everything else? And the answer is because they want to reduce the oxygen on the planet so that they can come out on top. Now, the problem you've got is that we're cattle fodder to them. So we're trying to obviously keep them underground. And, so it's a battle for the planet, really. It really is.
How did you first become experienced with the fact that the ETs are here and they're part of this epic battle of good versus evil?
When I was 4, so I was lying in my bed, I woke up and I have the ability to see through the veil, so I saw this big old, now what I realize is Anunnaki. It's like looks like a reptilian creature. It was about 10'7" tall, standing in the corner of my room, and I woke up, and when they're in there, you look at them, you think, well, you could be imagination, but it wasn't, because I always remember feeling that dark feeling in your chest, like, wow, this thing is not a good being. And so, I said, Dad, there's a reptilian in the corner. He comes running up. Where? Because he couldn't see it. So anyway, it's just a bad dream, darling. Go to sleep. So he went downstairs, and it's still standing there. So in the end, with the power I had, I said, get out of my bedroom. It went. Because there's certain universal laws in place, the keys of Enoch, which they have to do if you have the might and the strength to be able to create what I call prayers or what I call maps of intent. I like the word map of intent, because you intended that you need to get out of my space, and if you have the power behind that, you can do anything. It's amazing.
Is there any way that we can win this battle?
I think we've already won it. I think there's a lot of people waking up, and I think, with what's going on, you've got to remember, people say we're in a show. I think we are. I think a lot of these characters have been taken out, the deep state people and whatever, replaced by actors, so that they can show the people, and you might think, well, that sounds like manipulation. The problem you've got is you need people of the country behind you. It's not just about somebody taking over and, the savior. We have no savior, in my opinion. The only savior we have is us, the people of the country.
Right.
And so I think it's really important that we take our power back. We're a sovereign being, and, we kind of say, okay, this is not happening again. And, of course, the power is voting. And, of course, I believe the election's rigged. And so this time, I think it's going to change. And it's going to change big.
It seems as if the battle between, if you'll excuse the expression, the good and the bad, or the Earthling versus the ET, follows a script that can be easily seen within the Bible as well as other religious philosophies.
Absolutely.
So what is the sense of the Bible and these other books that we have been reading, that we have put our faith in, if the script is already written?
Well, I think they knew that eventually these reptilian elements, and like I said, the Luciferians connect the Vatican. You've got the Anunnaki, you've got Draconians, you've also got Archons. Archons, with the current event of people ingesting the, if you see what I mean, the nanotechnology, what happens is it splices the DNA, and the person can't live, the soul can't stay in the body because it's not compatible. So it lifts out the body about an inch or so. So in come Archon. So there's a whole agenda here, and they've all got together to try and take over the planet. But I think it is the end times, and I think, we're in a huge battle. People probably don't realize how bad it is. I think we've won already, because I think, God always wins, full stop, in my opinion.
Right.
But I think also, and again, it's my opinion, a lot of religions, you've got to remember, reptilian reptilians, if people channel reptilians, so they might say, they're channeling, say for example, you go, oh, you're doing a great job, yeah, keep going with the podcast and with radio shows and everything else, and then they'll tell you one huge lie. Rob, you should go to France and you're going to buy this house with a pink roof, red doors and something else. And a lot of people would take that as, okay, so they've been manipulated because they're going to fly to France. Some crazy person has, painted the house those colours. Oh, is the house? They were right, when they've actually been manipulated. So reptilians have this thing, 3 truths, 1 lie, and that goes with a lot of things as well. People who, even with the 3-letter agencies,
right,
they put 3 truths, 1 lie, because you can't tell people lies all the time. You've got to give them some things that resonate. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. And suddenly they'll say, oh yeah, but something huge is, and they'll send you down a rabbit hole that you have no business in going. And right now, I'm encouraging people to use their intuition. The only person who knows what your truth is you. You don't need gurus because we are our own guru.
Right.
So really encouraging people to get their vibration up and really step out and take their power back.
Exonation, before we go to our next segment, I would just like to let everybody know that twice a week, Christopher Macklin has a global healing, and these meditations are 2 times a week. And if you'd like to participate in them, visit www.globalenlightenmentproject.com. And just tell us a little bit about this, your meditation sessions.
Well, basically, it's a whole lot of healing. It covers a lot of things. Does it cover everything? No. But, I mean, Rob, I've been without money. I know what it's like. I've lived out of a car. It's not easy. Yeah. No money for food for 21 days, 7 days. And when you have no money, it's really difficult. So I've made sure it is a charity. So we make sure, we used to do it 3 times a week, but I found it kind of a little bit much. So I'm doing it twice a week. And it's on Rumble. It's on Facebook. We got taken down on YouTube. Oh, well. And,
why? Why would you be taken down on YouTube?
Well, medical misinformation, I mean, it's a spiritual, don't forget, it's a spiritual event.
Right.
And, of course, if you talk about anything that's not within the realms of a doctor, we're going to take you down.
Hey, Christopher, you and I have to take a commercial break. Please stand by. Thanks very much for coming on the show. I was looking very much forward to speaking with you today. And when we come back, X-Zone Nation, more with our special guest this hour, Christopher Macklin. Again, globalenlightenmentproject.com. And we'll be back as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't forget, send me your emails, your thoughts, your comments. If you need help with a project that we can help you with, we certainly will. The email address is xzone@classic1220.ca.
Everybody likes a celebration, happy music and conversation. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have the blues. In the corner there's a couple dancing. From the kitchen I can hear them laughing. Oh, I wish I was celebrating too. And I know this night won't last.
Exonation, Christopher Macklin is our special guest this hour. www.globalenlightenmentproject.com. Christopher, how important is the UFO alien abduction scenario when it comes to the ability of these ETs to survive and thrive on our planet?
Well, I mean, the abductions, a lot of the abductions were agreed with the the grey reticula. They're from Orion's belt, and they destroyed their own planet. Now, I want people to remember, you think, oh, these are negative, ETs and negative, reptilians. There's also the great ones who are actually helping us. There's the, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Atlanteans, Lemurians, Lyrans, and Melchizedek. So there's some great ETs that are helping us through all this. I honor them for being here because they want the planet to succeed. But it was interesting with the abductions because the Greys, it started really big with Hitler, where he said, okay, look, if I can abduct your people, will you sign a contract and we'll give you the technology? Of course, the technology they've got shouldn't even be on this planet because it's like giving a 3-year-old the keys to a Ferrari. And of course, we can see the difference now. This is not normal growth. This is not normal organic growth of the human race. It's so different from the 1970s and 60s to what it is now. It's almost like unrecognizable.
Yes.
So we've had different revolutions, different things happen, and it's just evolved over thousands of years. Now, suddenly, with 30, 40 years, it's changed so much. So of course, technology can be good in good hands, or technology in not so good hands can be weaponized and used against people, and that's what's happening, in my opinion.
I understand that you've worked with a great number of abductees and that you've even helped them to heal from their abduction experiences. And how do you do this, Chris?
Well, what you do is, the problem is if someone's been taken on a ship, of course, what they do is paralyze them. They take them on the ship so they can't move. And I just want to point out something that's really important. What's the difference between violation and education? Now, you might think, these reptilian entities that are under the planet are attached to people. The Luciferians, the Archons, and Anarchy Draconians, they're attached to people. But is that a violation? In my opinion, it's education, because before you come down here, they kind of show you, well, you've got these reptilian things, you need to learn how to navigate them, and that's with the power of, in quotes, maps of intent. But what happens if a race comes along and speaks to your government and says, right, sign this contract, you're going to get all this technology, and we can abduct your people. Why do they abduct the people? They're stealing their body parts, eggs, sperm, so they can actually genetically evolve it into kind of humanoid reticular greys, and that's what they've been doing because they've destroyed their planet and they lost the ability to reproduce. So that's been going on for some time. And, in 2017, I attended the Galactic Federation meeting, 3 Melchizedek beings there, to discuss this exact fact, and it was agreed by all the beings there, a lot of beings there, that they should be swept off the planet. So they did, and they were banned from coming in this time-space, the third dimensional world. So now what they're doing is they've got around that, and probably the verbiage wasn't clear enough. So what they're doing is they're coming through portals, so in the same space but different time. So they're getting over the universal law that they're still manipulating people. And now I'm seeing a lot of portals come in houses where these things come through the portal. They stay in the portal because they're not allowed to be in this third dimensional world, time-space continuum. But they're in a different time but same space, so they're still manipulating people. It's amazing.
Something I can't understand, Christopher, and maybe you can help me. If these ETs are so smart, if they are so advanced, why would they need to keep on abducting people instead of just replicating the organs that they need once they have the ability to do a DNA genetic and, human physiological buildup from scratch?
Well, I suppose they could, but it's easier to use eggs and sperm from human beings. They want to create beings, I think, with feelings and with love and everything else. The Greys have lost that, and I think they've lost it and didn't know how to get it back, because there's a certain energetic structure of a human being. How do you replicate it? Like the light body in a DNA. You can't replicate that. So if someone makes, say someone made a clone of you, Rob, so it looks exactly like you, but it's completely different because it's a different soul. They can't replicate your soul because the soul is part of the DNA, which is part of the light body. So they might make, a version of that's, like dark, who knows, or grumpy,
right,
or whatever, So what they wanted to do is get the love and that energy back into their society.
But how do they do that if they're just taking the eggs and the sperm and not allowing the necessary development of the embryo and the growth of the fetus and the love that the mother gives to the child while the child is in the mother's womb, and how the family binds together while the child is in development?
Well, they're missing the binding together, but what they've actually done is they've actually used women as like birthing people,
Gosh.
for want of a better word. And what they've done, I've seen it a lot, and people are really upset because suddenly they get pregnant. They feel pregnant. They haven't checked, and then suddenly they check, oh, I'm pregnant. And then what they've done is they've fertilized the egg and sperm in a woman's womb, left it for like 3 or 4 weeks, enough to get the soul in. Once the soul, they detect the soul, they then take it out and put it in a pod because the soul's attached to the fetus. So they've got over that as well. It's incredible.
So we're talking about something like immaculate conception.
Yeah, well, they've fertilized egg and sperm, but put it in the woman's womb. So it's a physical thing. They've been abducted.
Right.
And then what happens is a month later, or when you fertilize an egg, it becomes a fetus. You've got 3 months to get a soul in. And I've had many women say, "Well, I can't get pregnant. Why is that?" Da, da, da. The reason is because if you've got a ton of energy over the womb, like I call it regret energy, the soul can't get through that dense energy. So, of course, after 3 months, you're gonna get a miscarriage. And I've helped a lot of women get pregnant by releasing that emotion. So, when they fertilize an egg, the soul can get through. So, it's the same thing. So the soul comes through, of course, after as soon as they detect it. Can be a month, can be 3 weeks, can be 2 months. And the woman's like, oh, I'm pregnant. And suddenly, they get abducted again. They wipe their memory and suddenly, wow, I'm not pregnant. Imagine the violation, of that lady who's got pregnant and then realizes she's not. It's,
exactly.
It's awful.
Is there anything we can all do to keep ourselves safe and prevent from being abducted?
Yeah, I mean, it's reduced now, Rob, to be honest. Since that meeting in 2017, it's reduced. But, I've got a map of intent, the 27 Esoteric Merkabah field prayer. And if you say that, before you go to sleep, you won't be abducted. Because the high vibrational field, these are low vibrational beings. And I always tell people, if you don't want to be abducted, if you don't want attachments, what we need to do is do enough work where you can release enough emotion, take your power back, feel amazing, get in that God space where you think, wow, I feel amazing. They can't touch you because your field's too high. They can't even get anywhere near you because they don't exist in a high vibrational field. And that's so doing the prayer, a map of intent, is a bridge to stop them from actually abducting you and getting into you and attacking you. And it's on the website, so if people want it, please have a look.
So would these children who have been the result of an abduction, when they're born, are these the star seed children we keep hearing about?
No, they're just really grey reticular humanoids. Starseed children, there's about 400,000 on this planet. What are they? Well, what happens is that with starseed people, you can agree to come back. So God says, well, look, I need volunteers. You go, yeah, I'll do it, because you're up there, there's no money, there's no nothing, it's just unconditional love and everything. I'll do it, so you agree to come down here, and of course, they show you sure you want to do it? Yeah, and they show you some things that happen down here, and then you volunteer, and then you come down here, you think, wow, what was I thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I love it down here, but it is crazy.
I know a lot of people out there have heard about the alien abduction of humans, and years ago, cattle mutilations were big news, and yet now we hear very, very, very few stories about cattle mutilation. Is that because the ETs have done enough research, they have the information they need, and they're not mutilating our cattle anymore, or is there no connection between cattle mutilation and the ETs?
Well, the main people who mutilated them was the grey reticular. And I remember I was called in on a ranch, actually in Arizona. And what was happening, it was a horse sanctuary. And he'd wake up one morning, one of his horses was in bits, and he was so upset, so I went out there for 2 days, and what was happening is that the greys were actually using his horses as feed. So what we did is open a portal, and once I'd opened it took me a day and a half, and once we'd opened it, I shut it down for good, and the whole thing stopped. But since 2017, that's actually stopped more or less, because of course they've been removed. They can't just come here and eat, they're in a portal, so they can't get really to the cattle, so it's changed since 2017.
Exxon Nation, our guest this hour is Christopher Macklin. Now, if you'd like to find out more about Christopher, if you'd like to partake in his free global healing meditations twice a week, visit this website, globalenlightenmentproject.com. That's globalenlightenmentproject.com. And Christopher and I will be back on the other side of this short break as the Exxon continues from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Right here, you're listening to us now, whether you're in your car, whether you're at the office, whether you're at home. You're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and we're streaming right around the world on classic1220.ca. And don't forget, you can always send me your emails, xzone@classic1220.ca, and I'm with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here, like I said, at classic1220.ca. It's that simple. It's that easy. You have to make up your own mind whether you're a skeptic or whether you're a believer. I'm not here to force feed you. I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what not to believe. I believe that we all have free will, and this is part of it. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away. Is fiction, and fiction is reality. Today on the X-Zone, the Great Lakes Triangle of North America. Found in the heartland of North America, these landlocked yet connected lakes, which eventually empty into the Atlantic Ocean, have become the scene of more mysteries involving ships, aircraft, people, UFOs, ghosts, and phantom ships than the Bermuda Triangle. 1/16th the size of the Bermuda Triangle, Lady John Graves Simcoe was the first European to chronicle the strange orbs of light that have been seen above and below the waters of Lake Ontario. First Canadians tell of great cities which surrounded the Great Lakes where men flew without wings. The Great Lakes Triangle of North America, one of the world's greatest mysteries, right in our own backyard.
Just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio, and wrapped around the music is the sound of someone promising they'll never go. You swear you've heard it before.
Welcome back, everyone. Christopher Macklin is our special guest this hour, and if you'd like to partake in the weekly meditations that Christopher does, visit www.globalenlightenment. I'm sorry, Christopher. It's Global Enlightenment
Project.
All right, thank you. Christopher, always great talking to you. You are one of the most interesting people I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to over the air.
Oh, thanks, pleasure.
And just a quick question for you. Is there at any time where the ETs, once they have the egg and the sperm and the child is starting to develop, do they then genetically modify the child?
Yeah, after the soul, they're very careful about it, because again, if you modify it too much, the genetics of the body will not be compatible with the soul. So that's what they do. They modify it so the love is in it, but they modify it to look like a grey reticular, more like a grey humanoid than an actual human being itself.
We've recently heard a lot about transhumanism, nanotechnology, their effects on humanity, and of course, artificial intelligence. What is your take on all this, and how do you see it playing out in society?
It's big. I mean, if you look at the pandemic, ingesting the nanotech, which is, the bioweapons, I call it, what it's done is it's really affected people because the technology that they've injected people with is CRISPR technology. They've got the Morgellons particles, nanospheres, nanotubes, glycoethylene, hydrogel, and all these things. What people don't realize is that, Morgellons is a disease. It's been around, and the CDC have actually realized that it's real. We've got a protocol to get rid of Morgellons. It's a 20-week program using timeline split. It's the only way to get out of the body. So what happens is, when you've got this stuff, DNA, RNA, and immune system's all connected. So if you damage the DNA, if you splice the chromosomes, then your immune system goes down to about 15%, so it doesn't have the immune response. So these particles can actually grow. How do they grow? They've got things like nylon 3633, they've got silicates, they've got CMOS chip arrays in them, so they can transmit, receive frequencies to the body. But what do you need for growth? Carbon. So graphene oxide is carbon. You need water, you need warmth, and what they've done is, using the grey technology, they've bound all these things like the nylons and the silicates and everything else and plant material to these tiny, 10 to the minus 9 small nanoparticles, and so and also the stealth pathogen of Lyme disease called Borrelia is also bound to them. So it's a biological instrument that's alive. It's not, I call it live dead stuff because it's got no soul. It's been manufactured. So what happens is, if it's in the body, if your immune response is not there, it's going to start growing through the body. It grows through your tissue, it goes through your things, and depending on your chromosome level of damage, depends whether you can, for example, people are finding what looks like squid in the arteries. It's nylon 36. And things like, clots around the heart, myocarditis. That's also the nanotechnology assembling around the heart. So it's doing a lot of damage to people. Now, these things can also be good. I mean, if you have a nanoparticle, you put it in the bloodstream, and, you're of the light, you can steer it to actually go and break down cancer tumors. But, of course, it's in the wrong hands. So, but as the stuff grows through the body, people start to become transhuman because they're not their original DNA, and these particles overtake the body, and people feel, wow, I'm not in charge of a body anymore.
How do you know if somebody is of the light or not of the light?
I think that's a lot to do with, I've met people, for example, Rob, there's a lot of reptilian humanoids on the planet. Now, you can always tell because, again, if you grow a fetus in a pod and you put AI in it, then you're not going to get a proper human being. So they're very different. For example, the man in black in the three-letter agencies, they always wear sunglasses, shades.
Right. Yeah.
Why is that? Because, of course, you can see that they've got, if you look at their eyes, they're dead. There's no soul there, and so you can tell that it's it's a robotic human, not a proper one. And we've got a lot of percentage of, manufactured people here. I mean, if you look at the population, it's really interesting. If you study in the 1500s, on the whole planet, we had 438 million. 1600s, 500 million. So look at the difference. 1700s goes up to 610 billion. Very small increase. 1800s, we've got 1 billion. Huge difference. 1900s, 1.6 billion. 2000, 6.144 billion. And then 2024, 8.7 billion, kind of thing. And you think about mum and dad. The average person has 2.2 kids. How on earth do we get a population that big, that quick? And the answer is, it's been manufactured. So it's interesting.
Is it possible that, besides being manufactured, we now have the technology to take a better census around the world than we had before, and that may have contributed something to the increase as well, no?
Yeah, but not that much. I mean, if you think, say you have mum and dad, they have 2.2 kids. So you got, say, let's just take, for example, 2 kids.
Yeah.
So they grow up, and they have 2 kids, the two parents,
Right.
the 2 siblings. But then, within 80, 100 years, mum and dad passed away, so it doesn't make sense that the growth is that big that quick, if you do the figures. There's definitely another element in it, and to me, I think they're growing people in pods.
Yeah, but there are cases, like my wife and I, we have 6 children. We have 15 grandchildren. And we have we have 2 great grandchildren, and we know other members, not only within our family but members of society, who have also large families. And we know that Middle Eastern families who come to the United States and Canada, they also have large families. So I'm trying to understand, with all the explosion of the population of the world, yes, I can understand that there are questions. But if we're just taking 2.2 and coming out with this formulation, that would not equate to the growth if you had a variable in there where you have some families like us who have 6 children.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, we've got the Amish families building our house at the moment, which is 20 minutes away from here, and the 2 families, we bought them presents for Christmas. One of them's got 11 children, the other one's got 12, and you think, wow, this is a lot of presents,
Yeah.
And you're right, you're right, Rob, but I'm just talking about what they report the average person is, so.
All right.
But I still think even that, I still think it exceeds the amount of people that you would naturally, have born, in my opinion.
Sure.
It doesn't feel right. For example, I remember when in 2017, well, I'm going to put this out because it's really interesting. 2017, I became American citizen, and I went to Kansas City Federal Court and swore an oath and everything else. And I remember you had to learn, what the population was. It was 263 million people in America. And now you're looking a few years later, and it's gone down to 227 million people. So you look on Google, and it's been engineered backwards. So it looks real when I know it's not.
Yeah.
And of course, I've still got the book they gave me of what the population was, the longest river, everything else. And it doesn't make sense.
When we were talking about Morgellons, that used to be called the fiber disease, I remember a time when that was a very hot topic. But now, like a lot of the other topics that were so plentiful back in the early days of the X-Zone, 30 years ago, we had, chemtrails very popular. We had fiber disease, depleted uranium, alien abductions, crop circles, cattle mutilation. And it seems after all these years, it's kind of quieting down, and we're not getting as many UFO reports. I don't know the last time we had heard a cattle mutilation report. And looking at, Morgellons or the fiber disease, I really thought it had been eradicated.
Oh no, it's actually the new COVID,
Really?
Neely things, so people are getting Morgellons so bad. And I'm seeing it because, we work on about 2,000 people a week, and we get a lot of people in trouble with Morgellons, Lyme disease.
Right.
They're kind of all manufactured. I mean, if you look at the dates,
Right.
Let me just check the dates. So if you look at when Agent Orange was produced, 1965, then out of that came Lyme disease, which is a stealth pathogen as well, 1975. Then HIV, 1981, that was developed. And then you've got Morgellons was identified in 2002, but it was manufactured before. But these Morgellons particles are real. I mean, they're in the chemtrails. They're spraying them on us. They're in the meat. They're in our bodies. And again, depending on how robust your immune system works,
Right.
is depending where these things replicate or not. And most people are okay. So how do you damage your DNA? Well, the old way, before the new CRISPR technology came out, which is current, is to ingest agrobacterium. It's in GMO foods or it's in old vaccines, and that would damage the DNA enough to get the immune suppressed so that you could actually allow it to replicate, and it grows through the body.
Right.
Now it replicates really fast. I mean, with these bioweapons, you're getting turbo cancer, you're getting squid in the arteries, you're getting myocarditis, you're getting strokes, you get Bell's palsy, because Bell's palsy is caused, of course, by one of the co-infections of all this stuff is Epstein-Barr, gets in the nerve between the in the jaw and swells it, so
Yes.
it gets trapped in the jaw. The whole face goes, so there's a lot going on right now.
All right, please stand by, Chris. You and I have to take our final break for this segment and tonight's show. In Exonation, our guest this hour is Christopher Macklin. Visit his website, www.globalentertainmentproject.com, and we'll be back wrapping up this hour here in the X Zone on Classic 1220 and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
No need in bringing them back, 'cause they're never really gone. Just an old-fashioned love song, one I'm sure they wrote for you and the beat goes on, the beat goes on.
Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee. La-da-da-da-da.
Exonation, Christopher Macklin is our special guest tonight. His website, www.enlightenmentproject.com. Christopher, I know that you have written a number of books. Are all your books available on that website as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Center of the mind. There's one called Manifestation Abundant Life, which is really important. And, of course, History, Truth, and Healing of Manufactured Disease, which is HIV/AIDS, Agent Orange, Morgellons, and now, what's happening currently. So, absolutely.
Before we get on to the next topic, I'd love to talk to you about anxiety and stress in today's society. Who is infecting the people with these diseases, like Morgellons? And the other diseases that are, in my opinion, bioweapons? Who's doing this to us?
Well, what do you call it? Deep state cabal. To me, they talk about different terrorist organizations,
Right.
and this and the other. To me, you've got dark versus light. I think all the terrorist things are just false flags for deep state, ran by the reptilians under the planet to try and get the people off the planet and use bioweapons to take them out. And it's huge. Morgellons is, like I say, it's a disease that's been around for a long time, but it's in the jabs, and now they're using it to. Before, they didn't know how to damage the DNA and stop the immune response, so the stuff replicated. Now they've got a thing called CRISPR technology, which is delivered inside the cells, and that will splice the genetics and therefore make it happen. But, people are really stressed because they can see that, the whole takeover, to me, global warming's a pile of nonsense. And, I think they're trying to use all these things to spray stuff in the sky, which is nanotechnology, which sinks through your skin. So we've all got Morgellons particles in us. And I think people are starting to wake up. And, when you wake up and people think, oh, yeah, the government's okay, they're looking after me in the city. When you realize they're actually out to take you out, it's a big thing, and people have a lot of anxiety and they have to process the emotion of that. It's huge. And, what I always say is, especially Starseed people, they don't fit in this world because it's not their planet. They're here to do a job and they're here to help. So to me, the way I live, I don't know about you guys, but I don't live in the Matrix. I live in a bubble. And what I do is, we're building this house, 40 acres, trees all around, and we live in a bubble. So we have friends and people who really understand us, and we're close to them. But of course, you've got to change your life, and you've also got to find joy. I know, the economy's collapsing, everything's collapsing, but there's always joy to be found. Like, for example, cook a nice dinner. If you've got food on the table, look at the gratitude of that. If you've got a house, wow, a lot of people don't. They're living on the street. I've lived on, well, not on the street, but in a car. It's awful. It's very discombobulated. So if you've got a house, somewhere to live, you've got a beautiful wife, and you've got kids and everything else, you should be so grateful. Because life's not all about money.
No,
if you look at money, it's a promise to pay note.
Yeah.
The dollar bill is a promissory note. So, you go to your store and say, hey guys, at the checkout, say, yeah, I promise to pay you. Here's the bill. And then they promise to pay their suppliers, and the suppliers promise to pay the farm. Everyone's promised to pay, but no one's actually got any money because it's bizarre when you think about it. The whole system's like bizarre, but people get stressed by all this because people are waking up, and I think they have to go through an emotional turbulence to really understand and transmute the emotion that, look, The only person who's going to look after you is you. The only person who's going to look after your family is you and your family.
That's right.
And I think once you take your power back, and, well, I need to speak to a guru. No, you don't. You are your own guru, Get back to that sovereign place. I think it's so important.
With everything that is going on in the world today, like you were saying, the collapse of the economy, the political scene, the healthcare, the implementation of drugs, of diseases like Morgellons and other diseases, HIV, and the list goes on and on and on. How was it possible that we have been kept in the dark for so long, Chris?
Well, there's controlled opposition, of course. The three-letter agency is one of the biggest, CIA. They fund things like Google. They've got unlimited money, so they can put adverts out, and pay people off so that they put misinformation out, and they have done for years. Even the BBC, it's interesting because I used to respect the BBC. I don't anymore, but it was interesting because my brother loved the BBC, and he told me like 3 weeks ago, he said, I've actually realised the BBC is manipulating us. Whoa, that's amazing. I always encourage people to, the only person who, you've got to have discernment, and if this resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But it's your own discernment. You're going to get the truth out of being a sovereign, discerning being. And I'm really encouraging people for that.
How can you get the truth out there, Chris? Like you yourself, you've been blocked on you've been blocked on YouTube. So how can you get the truth out there if organizations like YouTube are being so selective on who is allowed on their platform based on their political agendas, their political views, their lifestyle views, and their neighbors and friends, their jobs, this and that and the other thing? That's not playing on a level field.
No, it's not. And what they're trying to do is shut us down. I mean, YouTube, they listen to my, global meditation and things like, for example, cancer. What causes cancer? Primary causes emotion. Secondary causes pathogens mutating the cells.
Yes.
Of course, you ask a doctor, no. Like autoimmune disorder, why do you get muscular dystrophy? Well, if you've got pathogens, if they're in the muscles and ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue, the immune attacks it. They just say, it's autoimmune disorder. But if you say that on YouTube, you're going to get taken down. So we just go on Rumble, and we rely on our people, the clients, to share it with people. We're on Rumble, we're on Telegram, we're still on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think it's because we're paid a lot of advertising in the past, and if they took us off, they'd have to give us the advertising money back. So, but we're on Truth Social. We're on a lot of platforms.
Well,
it's difficult.
I will tell you one thing, my friend. Anytime you want to have your programming on our networks, let me know. We'll make it happen.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Because I know what you're saying resonates with me as truth. And when I see organizations like Google and now even newspapers, they'll ask you for your comment on a story, but when you tell them what your comments are, they say, well, it goes against community standards, so we're not going to publish it.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it's funny because YouTube, looked at our, healings. After about 28, they found violation, we got one strike, second strike. I thought, here we go, the channel's going. So anyway, one morning, Friday, they wrote to us and said, you are a serial violator. I thought, oh my God, I've never been accused of being a serial violator before. And I was falling about laughing, took it down. Your YouTube channel's been closed, and we had 20,000 people on it. But,
oh my heavens.
But you know what? The thing is, never give up.
That's
one
right.
thing I've learned is, let's get out there and let's use Rumble. Let's use other things, because I just believe in telling the truth. And if someone suppresses you, then, we're not treading eggshells. We've got no business being on that channel.
If you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to hide.
God's behind us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And in the end, the good guys always win. It may take a lot of time, but so how do we deal with this stress and anxiety that's causing us more harm than good?
Well, I encourage people to do spiritual practice, like, if you like yoga, meditation, take time for yourself. People are on this hamster wheel. When you're in the matrix, you feel guilty if you're not busy doing something, whether it's working or, I've got to go to the store. Oh, I've got to, and what you're doing is ingesting your own emotion and shame yourself. Well, I didn't get those things done today. hang on, but if you take a step back, but you got tomorrow, or even the day after, it's okay. And I always encourage people, look, cook some nice meals and make it like instead of going to the fast food restaurant, cook it from scratch and make it like a whole experience, because that's what food is. Put love into it.
Okay, and here's an idea. When you have a family meal, or if you go to a restaurant to have a family meal, a nice relaxing evening with family and friends, don't take your cell phones.
Exactly.
Don't do that. Because you know what? People are learning the art of communication.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, I've seen families like 4 people, they're on their phones, eating their dinner, texting each other while you're around the table. So we've got to develop that art of communication. And I think whatever your gift is, maybe you're good at growing things. So get yourself a greenhouse, start growing your own food. If you love trees, I love trees. So if I sit amongst the trees on our 40 acres down there, you can feel all the angsty energies fading away, and you relax. If you like cooking, I love cooking. I'm not a chef, Rob. But my cooking's pretty good, well, so people say. But because I put love into it, and I have to have a recipe, of course.
Exactly.
I'd be lying if I didn't. But the joy of seeing people eat something, wow, that's delicious. It gives me joy. You know what I mean?
In my life, it's the very simple things in life that give me the most enjoyment. Like when I see my children smile, when they're happy, when they're getting along, when they're when the family unit is together, that makes me happy. To see a smile on a newborn's face, that, in my opinion, is a miracle.
Incredible. Yeah, it's just the best.
It is. And there are times, Chris, when I think that large organizations like Microsoft, Google, and the other list of mega corporations that are slowly taking over the world, they're part of the problem. I think technology, as much as it is an asset, is much greater a strike against humanity. This is my own opinion. Because years ago I had a pastor on the show. His name was Pastor Harry Walther, and he said, Rob, the mark of the beast is not 666. And I said, it's not, Pastor? He said, no, it's WWW.
It is, yeah, absolutely. And the influences, even on Facebook, I had the architect, and when he designed our house, he used square paper. No CAD CAM, no nothing. The house is stunning. Yeah. And he said today, I was thinking about going to Colorado with my wife Angie, and he said, suddenly, within 2 seconds, adverts were coming up for Colorado and going there, and he'd only spoke on the phone to her, and the thing's listening in, and now you're getting adverts with AI about going to Colorado, and it's invasive, in my opinion.
Chris, as always, time goes by so fast when you're with us. We'll have you back on in the very near future, because I still have so much I'd love to talk to you about. So until then, Chris, thank you so much for all you do.
Love to you, Rob. Thank you so much, and love to all your team as well. Bless you.
All right, and please thank your team for helping us get this interview up and running, and we'll be in touch with them in the next week or so to get you back on.
God bless. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you take care of yourself. Chris, and Next Donation, if you'd like to partake in the free global healing meditations that Chris does twice a week, visit his website, globalenlightenmentproject.com. Well, that's it for this hour. I'll be back on the other side of these short messages as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, because we're coming to you right here from your hometown radio. That's right, whether you're in Welland, Port Colborne, Niagara Falls, or even Toronto and north of Toronto, you're listening to us in your car on Classic 1220 and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca.
La da 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 da.